Welcome everyone back to another mock draft on the channel. Today is the 21st of October. Trade period is finished and we're into the kind of peak trading period where nothing really happens until draft night. So I think it's a good time to have a look at how the draft is shaping up at the moment. So we've seen a ton of pick swaps over the trade period, so the draft order has changed pretty dramatically, which kind of renders my previous mock drafts a bit irrelevant and inapplicable. So to update it today, hopefully I can capture a bit more accuracy with the current draft order. So I usually do live trades, but I think a lot of the clubs would have got most of their kind of pick swapping done by now, and then it's all up to kind of live trades in the actual draft. So I'm not going to try and predict that because that is a pretty tough task. So I've only done one live trade, which is something that I think should happen and is likely to happen, something like it. Because if it does happen and I haven't considered it, then it kind of changes the draft order quite dramatically. So I'm going to try and go the early crow and consider it now. So the pick trade that I am going to put through is North Melbourne's pick 2 for Richmond's pick 6 and pick 11. I think they do have a player in mind, but to take them at pick 2 is a bit of a reach at the moment. So I think that is a trade that will probably go through. And yeah, obviously, as I said, like if I don't consider it, it's going to change the draft order quite a bit. So with that out of the way, let's just get straight into the draft. So Richmond have the first two picks of the national draft, and pick 1, I have them taking Finn O'Sullivan. I've had him pick 1 basically every single mock draft I've done. I think he's clearly the best player in this year's crop. I think he's got the highest floor and one of the highest ceilings as well. So I think he's a really low risk pick of really high quality. He showed his quality in 2023 and 2022, had an injury interrupted 2024, which has put a lot of people off. But if you look at his kind of injuries and then how it correlates with his form, he had hand and finger injuries, and then his form in terms of statistics, I think his contested possession to uncontested possession count ratio dropped like massively. Like it used to be like 20 something to 20 something, so 1-to-1, but it became like 7 to 20 something, so 1 to about 3. So that could be due to a change in role, but that change in role would be because of the injuries as well. So I think the hand injuries have really impacted his ability to win contested ball, which has restricted his performances. But I think at full fitness, he will get that back and will become probably the top player in this year's pool again. So I have him going at number 1. Pick 2, I have Richmond bidding on Brisbane's Levi Ashcroft. So I don't think they'll bid on him at 1 because of the award that pick 1 gets. They don't really want to give it to Ashcroft instead of their own player. So I think that could be the reason why they just bid on him at pick 2. So Ashcroft gets to Brisbane, and then Richmond follow that up by picking Sam Lawler. So these two are the guys who have been linked to pick 1. So yeah, obviously now currently the trade hasn't been done in real life, I guess. So it is Finn O'Sullivan or Sam Lawler at the moment, but I think by the time the trade is completed, it will be both of them. Richmond can really do with a player like him, both currently and in the future. I think he'll start as a kind of medium forward. Richmond don't really have that sort of X factor medium forward. They've tried Cumberland, I think, and he just hasn't worked out. So Lawler slots in straight away, and then long term he looks like a dominant midfielder. So that's a really good duo for Richmond to start off the draft. Pick 3, obviously Carlton have traded in, and I think, well, their main target would have been O'Sullivan, but now that he's off the board, I've got them taking Sid Draper. I think Carlton's biggest need at the moment is that outside spread from the midfield, and Draper provides that. He's got probably one of the most agile and fast players in the draft. I'm not exactly sure what his combine results were. I don't think he was rated very highly or in the top 10 for any of the kind of measures. So he's more an all-rounder rather than being the best at any sort of athletic measure. So Carlton take him. He complements Walsh and Cripps really well going forward. Pick 5, Adelaide. I think their ideal target would have been Draper as well, but I've got them taking Jagger Smith now. So Smith has been probably the most consistent performer of this crop so far this year, but I think with the upside of the others ahead of him, and then Carlton's specific needs of a player, I think Jagger will slide to pick 5. I think Adelaide will be pretty pleased to get him at this point. He doesn't really perfectly suit their midfield, in my opinion. I think they'd be looking for more of that burst player in Draper, but Jagger is best available at this point. I think that's what you need to do at pick 5, rather than trying to get too cute and taking someone that might suit a need better. I think just taking best available and hopefully watching him develop into a star and build around him. I think that's the ideal way forward for the Crows. That leaves Melbourne to pick Murphy Reid at pick 6. This is a really hard pick to predict. I think Melbourne would definitely take a midfielder here, because there's some talk about Armstrong being considered here, but I think they'll hope that he slides a bit to their pick 9. But yeah, taking Murphy Reid here for his elite hands. Smiley and Langford are also options here, but since they've already got Clayton Oliver, who's still very young, those two players are very similar to Oliver. I think they'd be looking for a bit more class, and I think Reid provides that. They also lost Neil Bullen, so Reid can play that high half forward role as well. So he's a good ball user, and I think he suits Melbourne a bit better than the other mids, and you can kind of say he is on par with them in terms of quality. So this is not really the case of preferring needs, it's rather choosing between 3 equal players. And I think, yeah, Murphy Reid suits the Demons the most. And then we're back to pick 7, and this is where North Melbourne's first pick comes in. I've got them taking Alex Taru, so he's been heavily linked to them. 193 centimeter key defender, kind of third tall. Can also play forward. I think he suits them perfectly. He's more that attacking key defender rather than locked down. So they've already got Will Dawson from last year's draft. I think he's that fullback who you can rely on to take the best key forward of the opposition. And Taru's more that attacking player, like the James Sicily or John Ridley type. Third tall was Tom Stewart. So then we move on to St Kilda's 2 picks. So firstly, I think they'll bid on Leo Lombard. I think Lombard suits St Kilda's midfield extremely well. He's got that speed. He's a good ball user, and I think St Kilda are desperate for those types of players. So yeah, I think they'll bid on Lombard to make Gold Coast pay up. And if Gold Coast for whatever reason don't want to pay up, I think that St Kilda will be happy to have him as well. So I think this is the perfect time to bid. Then follow it up with a bid on Kako. So St Kilda do have a need for small forwards as well, but this is mainly because I think Dalrymple and Sauce both have a history of bidding on players just to screw other clubs over. So I think we were interested in pick 9 as well from Essendon, and the fact that they rejected us would give us more reason to bid on Kako early. So I think, yeah, out of spite, Kako might get bid on at pick 7. Essendon matched that bid, and then now St Kilda stop screwing other clubs over and they take Josh Smiley. I think this is a very good pick. He slid all the way from pick 1 mid-year due to some underwhelming performances, but I think he was a bit ill and had some injury niggles through the champs, which ultimately led to those poor performances. So I think there is a lot of upside here. He has a lot of potential, has grown a bit as well, so 195.5 centimeters from his apparently that's what he's claimed, and he suits St Kilda really well. They really need that contested ball winning beast, and that is what Smiley is, to complement the likes of Philippo, Windhager, Henry, etc. as those more outside inside ball users. But yeah, Smiley as the ball to win the ball out does really complement the midfield really well. Pick 11 is a lot more tough. So Harvey Langford is available here. So I've got St Kilda taking him, but I think there would be a temptation to try and offer a deal to Richmond at this point, because Smiley and Langford, in the context of St Kilda's squad, two big and slow midfielders. I'm not really sure if that really complements the midfield brigade when you've already got Philippo, Steele already there. So I think St Kilda might try to offer this pick to Richmond for their pick 13, pick 13, the Fremantle's natural pick, and then maybe a pick in the 20s for Richmond to move up to take Langford, and then St Kilda slides back a couple of spots. So I think that's an ideal trade scenario. I'm not gonna trigger it this time because I just get a feeling that that's not gonna happen. But yeah, Smiley and Langford is still a good combination. It's just a bit more questionable than other combinations that are possible. We'll move on to pick 12, and this is Melbourne back on the clock. They take Harry Armstrong as the key forward, 195 centimeters compared to Jeremy Cameron, so he's clearly got a lot of good attributes. He's good on the lead. He's a really accurate kick for goal. Set shot kicking is elite. And he's one of those key forwards where he doesn't really touch the ball that much, but when he does, it often leads to goals. So he's very, impactful and deadly when he does get the ball. Richmond on the clock now with Fremantle's pick, and I've got them taking Toby Travaglia. I'm not exactly sure of this fit, but it is kind of the best available pick, and I think Richmond can do with a defender. Travaglia obviously is a halfback at the moment, 187 centimeters, but I do think he'll eventually move into the midfield, similar to Will Day. So yeah, Richmond take Travaglia. Pick 14, North Melbourne back on the clock. They take Luke Traynor. So Trainor's slid quite a bit due to his concussion issues, but still a third tall that would complement North Melbourne really well. Taru and Traynor, they kind of play the same role in terms of being third talls, but I think you can still fit them both in the same team because they have different attributes. So Taru's that more intercept, manic, aggressive player, and then Trainor's more that ball user, but they both can intercept. So I think if you get them both, you'd be able to find a way to fit them into the same team. And yeah, Taru's very athletic as well, so could easily play them two plus Dawson and then another key defender as a centre half back. Pick 15, West Coast on the clock, and they take Bo Allen. This has probably been their target all along, from trading down from pick 3, and now that Fremantle have traded their pick to Richmond, I think West Coast have a very easy way to get Allen. So he's a big midfielder, 191 centimeters, and he's got really good athletic attributes. So he's got good burst from the stoppage, and he can also play halfback, so he's got that defensive element to his game. I think his midfield craft can still be improved a little bit. You can see him getting lost a bit, kind of, but I think that's just something that will improve as he plays more midfield after graduating from halfback. We'll move on to Port Adelaide, and I got them taking Xavier Lindsay. So I think Port don't really have too many needs. I think they'll be looking for good ball users though. So Lindsay can start on the wing, can play inside, but he's a very good ball user, and probably the best in the draft. So I think Port will be happy to take him. Fremantle at pick 17 for them taking Joe Berry. So small forward, I think Fremantle just needs small forwards and forward half creativity. That's probably the only hole on their list. Their defense is really strong and their midfield is elite. So I think Berry at this point is very good. If Lindsay slides to here, they might consider him as kind of a long-term winger. Pick 19 on the clock, and I've got GWS bidding on Brisbane Sam Marshall. So yeah, Marshall had a really good finish to the season. The grand final, his best on ground with like 25 plus touches and 2 goals. It was a very damaging performance, and I think he'll get bid in the teens now. I think that comes with the Giants. So Brisbane matched that bid, and then Giants are back on the clock. I think they'll take Taj Houghton. So the Giants are a team that in the luxury where they can just take best available and also take risks on players like Houghton who've been injured all season. They've got enough talent on their list to cover for players if they fail, but I think Houghton being a top 5 talent early on in the season before his injury, sliding to 19, it's too good of a deal to pass up for the Giants, who are looking for kind of the cream on top, and Houghton is that sort of player with that X factor and game-winning ability. And then the Giants are back on the clock with their compensation pick for Perryman, and I've got them taking Oliver Hannaford. So this is a similar type of player, but they're both X-factor players, both forward half attacking guys who can win you games if they're on top of their game. I think, for a contending side like the Giants, I think that's what they need. They can both run through the midfield as well, so that adds extra depth to that area. And they lost Peatling as well. So Bulldogs on the clock for the first time in this draft. For them taking Jesse Detoli, they've lost Jack McRae as that creative half forward, and I think they just already had a need for half forwards and small forwards in general. Detoli is probably one of the smartest footy IQ players in this year's crop. 179 centimeters, can play forward, can play through the midfield, can play on the wing, so he's quite versatile. But the best thing about him is that he's a really good user, and he's dual-footed, so he can kick on both feet. So he's very much kind of like side bottom, steel side bottom, and I think the Bulldogs could do with a lot more creativity in their forward half. Richmond on the clock, and I've got them taking Job Shanahan, so key forward to address their forward issues. I think, this is pretty straightforward. Richmond have a lot of issues with their key forward stocks, and Shanahan is a very good start to rebuilding that part of the ground. Sydney on the clock, they take Cooper Hines, so forward half damaging player, similar to Taj Houghton and Oliver Hannaford in that he's a forward mid who can win you games. He has X factor, he has burst, he's kind of like Chad Warner, so if he can form a combo with Warner going forward, that would be extremely damaging. But if Warner decides to go back to Western Australia, Hines can kind of slot straight in. But I think there are question marks over Hines kicking, which is why he's slid a bit further than Houghton and Hannaford, but he's still very damaging. He hit the scoreboard as well. He's kind of been overshadowed by Harvey Langford since they play in the same talent league team, and then Langford's the one that's being preferred in the midfield. Hines in his own right is still a very good player. Richmond back on the clock, and I've got them taking Matt Whitlock. So Jack Whitlock could be an option here, but I've got them taking the more versatile brother, the one that can also play in defence. They need a partner for Josh Gibkiss going forward. So I think Whitlock, whether he plays forward or defence going forward, I think he's a very valuable addition, a versatile addition to the Richmond team. Giants are back on the clock. I don't really expect them to take 3 picks in the first round. I think they might package a couple of them up. We'll see though. But either way, I think they'll take Harrison Oliver if they do keep this pick. 181 centimeter halfback to replace Cumming. They've obviously lost Perryman and Cumming, kind of a bit of rebound off halfback. So Oliver is probably the best pure halfback in this year's pool. He's got a really nice kick on him, and he loves to run with the ball, and he's very tough as well. Like he's a good interceptor too, so he's good defensively. We've got Sydney on the clock with the second last pick of the first round, and I've got them taking Jack Whitlock to kind of boost their key forward stocks. I think their key position stocks are probably the biggest issue on their list at the moment. They've got serviceable players like McLean, Amadi, and McDonald, but they don't really have that really high quality game-winning key forward, and I think Whitlock has the potential to be that, given he's 200 centimeters, has a really good overhead mark, He's still quite raw. I think if he puts on some size, he could be a really damaging key forward going forward. Then Richmond back on the clock again. They've got back-to-back picks now. Last pick of the first round and the first pick of the second round. I think they'll go with Christian Moraes first. So he's a creative half forward / wing / midfielder, quite versatile. I think he looked like a top 10 pick at the start of the year, but his ball use has really let him down at times this year. So if Richmond can clean that up with him, then he's going to be a really damaging player going forward. He's got a lot of speed, and he's very fit as well, so he can run it all day, and he can hit the scoreboard as well. So he's another really good forward half player. And then in the first pick of the second round, Richmond might look to trade this, but I think they're also in a really good position to keep it, because Tom Gross is still on the board, and I think he'd help their half forward stocks a lot as well. He's kind of slid a little bit this year because he hasn't really played much inside midfield in the champs, but he at the start of the year and last year he was a really good inside mid, winning contested ball. I used to kind of compare him with Ben Hobbs from Essendon in his draft year. So both players who can play half forward and wing and midfield, but primarily midfielders who get played out of position. So I think Gross at this point could be a bargain if he gets played back in the midfield, and I think he really boosts that area for Richmond. Bulldogs back on the clock here at pick 29. Got them taking Lockie Jakes. He's a halfback who uses the ball really well, and can also intercept. So these kind of halfbacks in this draft crop are all like good ball users, and they can also intercept and defend. So good hybrid halfbacks, and I think the Bulldogs will want a piece of that with Lockie Jakes. Then the Eagles are back on the clock, and I've got them taking Hamish Davis. So local player, but not just because he's local. He's a big body, 190 centimeters, and he's a mid forward who can hit the scoreboard, can also play midfield. So I think these players are very valuable, where they can hit the scoreboard and also go into the midfield and cause damage there by winning clearance. I think that's what Davis can do for the Eagles, and he's a mature body as well. So he kind of takes a bit of pressure off someone like Harley Reid with that big body, and then also Jimby as well. So good pick for West Coast there. We've got a couple of picks getting swallowed by bids before Port Adelaide are back on the board. I've got them taking Harry O'Farrell, so a fullback. I think, Port Adelaide don't have too many issues with their list, as I said before, but key defenders is one of them. They haven't really been able to settle on a good combination to partner Aaliyah, and I think O'Farrell has the ability to do that at 196 centimeters. He can also play forward, so he's a bit of a swingman, and I think Port Adelaide can do with a player like that. Pick 32, Fremantle on the board. I think they're looking for outside run, so and good ball users, and I think they might bid on Carlton's Ben Campriali at this point. This is about his range in the 30s, early 30s, late 20s. And I think Fremantle, given their need for good ball users, will bid on Campriali here. So Carlton match that. Fremantle get to pick again. I've got them taking Pat Rechko, who is a winger. Might be a bit of a reach, but it is a needs pick, where Fremantle, I said before, that I think they've got a bit of a hole on their wing position. They don't really have elite wings. Jeremy Sharp has been a good find, but he's not going to be a star. I think he's got some limitations with his skills. I think Rechko is a good ball user. He's good at running. He's a long distance runner. He's played wing pretty much all year for the Oakley Chargers. So I think this is a good pick for the Dockers. He's 186 centimeters as well, so a good height for the modern winger. St Kilda on the board with pick 34, and I've got them taking Alex Dodson, South Australian ruckman. They obviously delisted Tom Campbell and pursued Ivan Soldo, but that didn't eventuate. So they've got a bit of a hole there in the ruck without any kind of sort of backup to Rowan Marshall. Got Max Heath developing and Isaac Keeler. I think he's more of a forward, but Heath is still quite raw. We don't really know if he's going to come on this year, so we do need a bit more backup. Obviously, another draftee isn't ideal, but I think the Saints can't go wrong with taking him here. I wouldn't be surprised if they do go with someone else, maybe another midfielder or a key defender, or a small forward even. But yeah, Dodson is a good pick here. I think best available as well. Pick 35, Hawthorn take Jonty Fall. He slid a little bit in this draft, but he's a lead-up centre-half forward. I think he can partner with Mitch Lewis really well. He can get up the ground while Lewis is that stay-at-home forward. So I think Hawthorn will be looking forward to forming that combination for the next decade. The Bulldogs are back on the clock, and I've got them taking a key defender now. So at the time of recording, I've just seen that Alex Keith retired. So got a bit of a hole in that key defensive post, and I've got them taking Clancy Dennis. So he was probably the best key defender to come out of WA. I think he was All-Australian as well. He's good at intercepting, but he's a bit undersized, which is why he slid a little bit, but you can't question his interceptability. He's a solid ball user as well. So yeah, I think as a third tall, even a centre half back, has a big future for him. Port Adelaide back on the clock. I've got them taking local player in Angus Clark, so 188 centimetre defender. They've lost Houston. They've got Logan Evans, but I think another halfback in Angus Clark wouldn't do them any harm, especially since he's local as well. He's got good rebound to him, and he's also got a defensive element to his game too, so he's a good ball user. Quite similar to Logan Evans, to be honest, but I think they've got some nuances to their game that can really help with Port Adelaide's rebound alongside Kane Farrell. Pick 38, GWS on the board, and they take Gail Jarine. He's kind of that unicorn key forward at 199 centimeters. He can also play in the ruck. Another kind of pick where GWS have the luxury of just going with best available and kind of high risk, high reward picks. And I think Jarine, I think they've re-signed Lachlan Keefe this year because they don't really have sufficient forward ruck backup. And I think that's what Jarine can develop into as kind of that key forward who can pressure up forward, but then can also go on the ruck and show his mobility and show off his stoppage craft as well. So I think that's a good pick for the Giants. We've got a ton of bidding going on through here, but Sydney are back on the board. I've got them bidding on the GWS ruckman Logan Smith. So the Giants have just taken a forward ruck, but this is a pure ruckman in Logan Smith. Probably the second best ruck in the draft this year, behind Alex Dodson. But yeah, Smith from the Giants Academy. The Giants will just bid on him, and they'll be very happy with that. The Swans are back on the board, and I've got them taking Archer Day-Wicks. So another forward half attacking X-Factor player. He is good overhead, a good size for a small forward in 186 centimeters. So he's tall, and that doesn't really affect his athleticism. So he's still very agile. So he's kind of a unique type of small forward. He can pressure. He's a bit inconsistent, but I think if Sydney obviously lost Constante to North Melbourne, I think they can replace him with Day-Wicks and probably an upgrade as well. Geelong on the clock for the first time in this year's draft. I've got them bidding on Cody Anderson, who is a part of Hawthorn's NGA. Inside mid, he was looking like a potential first round pick early in the year before his injury, but he's slid out to the third round now, and I've got Geelong bidding on him since Geelong have a need for midfielders, and a tough inside mid like Anderson would benefit them a lot. But Hawthorn gets a bid on him, they match the bid, and Geelong get to take Gabriel Stumpf, who is the key forward who won the 20-meter sprint. He's very, very, very athletic. He's good on the lead, and I think he can partner with Shannon Neal quite well going forward. They've obviously got Jeremy Cameron still there, and then Oliver Henry. Stumpf at 196 centimeters looks like he has a lot of potential. at AFL level. Then Essendon on the board. I think they'll bid on Lucas Campriali just to piss Carlton off. And then I think they'll take Thomas Sims, who's slid quite a bit in this draft. So I usually have him projected around 20 to 30, but just didn't really fit him in around that point. So he slid out to 44 now. Big key forward, 199 centimeters, is good overhead and can go into the ruck as well. I think Essendon have a need for key forwards. I think they delisted Sam Wiedemann, so yeah, they've got a hole there. Peter Wright's out of form, and Harry Jones isn't really a key forward anymore, so they've got a really big need for that, and I've got them taking Thomas Sims to fill that void. St Kilda on the clock at pick 45. I've got them taking Josh Dolan, so he's a small forward. I think he solves the need for St Kilda. I don't know if they'll take him exactly, but I think St Kilda do have a need for a small forward. Dolan can pressure and he can kick goals as well. He can also have stints to the midfield, so he's kind of that perfect versatile small forward that St Kilda could do with. Then the Bulldogs are on the clock, and I've got them taking Luke Urquhart, speedy midfielder who's got burst from the stoppage. Question marks over his kicking, which is why he's slid, but I think he's kind of could be a long-term replacement for Adam Treloar, kind of. But yeah, I think the Bulldogs can do a lot worse than to get Urquhart. He's a good depth midfielder, and they obviously missed out on Xavier O'Halloran, so I think that's a similar type of player there. Port Adelaide back on the clock. I've got them taking Harry Charlson, so he's a halfback again, so similar to Angus Clark, except he's a bit smaller at 182 centimeters, and he's a bit more of a half rebounder, while Clark can also play a bit more defensively. So yeah, I've got Port Adelaide kind of just loading up on good ball users, because I think that is a need in their squad, especially given their game style and losing Dan Houston as well. Collingwood on the clock for the first time in the draft. I've got them bidding on St Kilda's Adrian Cole, so I think they have a need for key defenders, especially lockdown ones that can just win 1v1s against the opposition's best key forward, and that is what Adrian Cole is. So I think Collingwood will try to bid on him, but St Kilda will match. So Collingwood are back on the board, and I think they'll take Noah Mraz, who is quite similar to Cole, a bit more intercepting, a bit more attacking, but he can also lock down when he needs to. So I think that's a good pick for Collingwood at pick 49. He could easily go in 30, so it's a good high upside value pick. Essendon back on the clock here, and I've got them trying to bid on Adelaide's Tyler Welsh at pick 50. So Welsh, the key forward, I think he'll get to Adelaide. He slid quite a bit due to some underwhelming form, but Adelaide fans think he's doing on purpose just to tank for them. But yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. But yeah, I think they'll end up with him. So Essendon get to pick again. They'll take James Barrett, who had a good finish to the CTL season. He can play anywhere on the ground at 193 centimeters, so he's very versatile, and yeah, so he can play up forward, play defense, play even midfield. So he's a good runner, and I think Essendon can benefit from more of those types of players who can just play a role and just run all day and put in the effort. So Essendon have back-to-back picks here. I think they'll take Jasper Alger with their second here. 182 centimeters small forward. So they've already taken Kako, but I think they do need another small forward just to build up their depth in that area, because it is a very weak part of their lineup. So Alger is creative. He can kick goals. Can also kind of go through the midfield as well, but he's also a good mark, so he can lead up and take marks on the lead. So he's not really kind of that buzzing small forward who relies on crumbing to score their goals, kind of like Jack Higgins, if you want a comparison to an AFL player. So yeah, I think he benefits Essendon small forwards really well. So Collingwood back on the clock here at pick 53. I've got them taking Jack O, 193 centimeter, big inside mid who can also play half back. He had a really good finish this season, CTL season as well, when he got moved into the midfield. He's a hard worker. He's got solid skills. And yeah, that big frame of his really gives him a point of difference in the midfield. I don't think Collingwood really have that sort of player. They have Pendlebury at 191 centimeters, but obviously he's getting towards the end of his career, so I think they'll eventually need to find a replacement for him. Not saying can become the quality of Pendlebury, but he does fill a void there. I think they have Ned Long as well, but I don't think he's really a long-term solution. So yeah, O's got a lot of upside. He's very raw. As I said, he moved into the midfield mid-season, so he's still got a lot to learn, but he averaged probably 25 plus disposals per game when he did get moved into the midfield. So good performer there for Collingwood to address one of their issues. Geelong on the clock at pick 54. I've got them taking Luca Grego. So he's a kind of a defender midfielder. He's a good mover, nice athleticism. I think he's not really a need for Geelong, but he does offer versatility. Kind of Tom Atkins, more defensive Tom Atkins, I guess, who can also play in defence as a lockdown medium defender. So I think Geelong will just take him just to fill some holes in their list in terms of defensive accountability. Collingwood back on the clock, and I've got them taking Will Hayes, 178 centimeter two-way runner. He's very good winger, works very hard. I think he solves a need for the Pies on the wing. They had Jack Bytel playing on the wing late in the season, and they've delisted him, and I think they could use some more depth in that space. So a winger for Collingwood, pick 55. Pick 56, Sydney on the board again, and I've got them bidding on Essendon's Jayden Nguyen, who's a halfback. Moved into the midfield late in the season and performed quite well for the Calder Cannons, so I think his draft stocks have risen a little bit. I think he could get bid on even higher, but there are some doubts over his small frame of 177 centimeters. So I've got Sydney taking him at this point before they take their own academy player in Joel Cochran, the winner of the 2 kilometre time trial at the AFL Combine. I think Sydney might just elect to pass on him here and then try and take him in the rookie draft, but I've got them taking him here because I think he'll get bid on at some point and they'll end up with him anyways. So yeah, Cochran here as a third tall. He's quite raw, but yeah, he's a very good key defender who has a lot of upside as a third tall. North Melbourne on the clock next, and I've got them taking Dom Brew. So this is the VFL Werribee captain, who I guess blew up on the internet with that interview where he was really emotional. This is the guy who led Werribee to victory in the grand final. I think they can do with some more mature bodies in that midfield, and I think Brew is a good fit for them in there. He won't play much AFL, I don't think, but if they have any issues with depth or anything, I think he can come in and do a role as a inside ball-winning midfielder. Fremantle back on the clock at pick 59, and I've got them taking Oliver Warburton. So Warburton is a defensive midfielder, or he's not really defensive, but he can play in defence at half-back. But he's a very attacking player. He's got a lot of speed. He's a solid ball user as well. And yeah, he's got a solid frame at 185 centimeters too. So played for Vic Country, and it was very damaging for them through the midfield, and then could also play at half-back. I think he solves the need for Fremantle in terms of being able to play half-back if they need a rebounder, and yeah, to be able to shift into the midfield potentially long term is exciting for him as well, since he does have a very optimal skill set for the modern prototype midfielder in terms of having speed, being mid 180s, and then having burst from the midfield as well, and being able to win contested ball, and then being a good ball user. So he's a very balanced player, and I think Fremantle will be happy to take him there. Gold Coast, pick 60, I've got them taking Cade Herbert, so this gives them a bit of outside class. They lost Rory Atkins in that depth department in terms of having good ball user of halfback. Herbert is a winger, but I think long term he could play at halfback. Yeah, he's got good class on the outside. We saw the success by Gold Coast in drafting Sam Closey in last year's draft as a winger. Herbert is not a mature aged player, but he does have similar attributes to Closey and could complement him on the other side of the ground alongside Closey. So Herbert was really highly rated at the start of the year, but has dropped off a little bit this year with concerns over his frame and then contested ball winning. But on the wing, he's still a very damaging player, very creative and can set up attacks going forward. Carlton on the board. I think this pick won't be swallowed by any of the Cambriali bids. So I've got them taking Phoenix Hargrave here. He was Sid Draper's South Australia teammate and also played alongside him in North Adelaide. So that is a bonus on top of Hargrave being a really good inside midfielder, 182 centimeters. He's got spread from the stoppage as well. So this is another player that fits one of Carlton's needs, which is a midfielder who can win the ball on the inside, then get on the outside and get involved with their attacking chains as well. So being Sid Draper's teammate is just a bonus, but he still does fit a need for the Blues. Pick 62 for the Eagles. I've got them taking Jackson Artemis, who is a attacking halfback who can also play on the wing. He's got a very penetrating left boot, and he loves taking the game on. So he's kind of like a young but better version of Jermaine Jones. He kind of reminds me of him, who last year Jermaine Jones, when he played halfback, he'd take the game on at every opportunity, just run straight through the ground, and then has the left boot as well that can execute a really penetrating kick. That is the type of player Artemis is to my eyes. So at 180 centimeters, he's a solid size as well. So I think being a WA boy as well, I think that it does appeal to West Coast as well as a local product talent. Geelong back on the clock. I've got them taking Jack Henderson, who I think he won the best on ground for the Werribee VFL Grand Final. So Don Brew was in that team. Henderson was the star player that day, and I think that does appeal to Geelong to try and replicate the successes of drafting Sean Manor last year. Henderson is a bit smaller, 177 centimeters, but he is very good at winning contests and clearance, and he's good at spreading on the outside as well. So could be a winger, could be a forward, could be inside mid. It depends on how Geelong want to use him, but he does have a lot of attributes that can hold him quite well at AFL level. Pick 64, I've got the Suns taking Joshua Murphy. So this is a 190 centimeter third tall. He attacks the ball really hard, and he's got a lot of X factor up forward. So he can kick goals, he can hit the scoreboard. I don't think Gold Coast have any needs in their team. They've got Ben King, Jed Walter, etc. as genuine key forwards. They don't really have a third tall, someone like Josh Murphy. So I think, this does fix a hole in their list. And Murphy has a lot of upside as well if he is developed correctly. So this could be a bargain pick for the Suns. Then Hawthorn on the clock again, and I've got them taking Charlie Nichols. So I think they can do some more key forward depth. They've obviously already drafted Fall in this version of the draft, but I think another key forward who has a bit of upside. Nichols is 197 centimeters from South Australia. He's got in the lead, and he can also clunk a mark overhead as well. So a bit to work with there. He is a bit raw though, so I think under Mitch Lewis he can develop quite well. I think between Fall, Nichols, and Cole Shadir, they all have different attributes and they can work together in the same forward line. And then obviously add Mitch Lewis if he's fit. That can be very potent up forward. We're into round 5 of the draft. At this point of the draft, like, a lot of teams will start passing, and not exactly sure if teams will actually want to take picks into here. But it is a very deep draft and very even, so I have picked some plays here with a lot of the picks. which does result in a kind of, I think, 75 player draft. So I've got Richmond taking Sam Davidson. He is the VFL, star who was considered in the mid-season draft but not picked up. 191 centimeters. He's very fast for a player of his size, and he's got a lot of X factor up forward and can kick goals. So I think Richmond do have interest in him, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do pick him up as another key forward to add to Job Shanahan and Matt Whitlock. North Melbourne on the clock, and they pick up Xavier Ivicic as a speedy midfielder, 180 centimeters. It has a lot of burst from stoppage, so it does give them another element in their midfield. West Coast direct bid on Malachi Champion. I don't think they'll directly bid on draft night, but this is pretty much equivalent to his value at around pick 60 and 70. Adelaide back on the clock here. I've got them taking Ned Bowman. He's a 186 centimeter forward, has a lot of X factor and is good on the lead. I think he's very creative, and that's something Adelaide lack in their forward line, apart from Isaac Rankin and Josh Rochelle. 186 centimeters, he's a bit taller than them, so I think he could form a really good dynamic with those two. Melbourne on the clock, and they've got them taking Evan Bradley. I think I've had them taking him like every draft, but he's a small forward, and I think he complements Pickett really well as a small pressure forward with X factor as well. And they've lost Neil Bullen as well, so there is a hole in that area of the ground for them. I've got a few teams passing here, but Fremantle, I think they'll take Cody Angove if they do elect to take someone at this point. He's another small forward to add to Fremantle's depth in that area. 182 centimeters, so he's quite good size. He can push up the ground, but he can also hit the scoreboard to the midfield. Collingwood, I've got them taking Floyd Burmeister. I don't know if they'll take a pick here, but if they do, maybe they'll try to get some ruck depth. And Burmeister was the ruck for Vic Country in the championships and performed quite well. He's still very raw, so he has a lot of upside. Which is why he has gone late, because he's not really a proven product yet. So I think Collingwood could do with another developing ruck. Then Hawthorn, I've got them taking Damon Hollow. This is a massive slider in the draft, but he's a winger, 180 centimeters, and he works really hard both ways. And I think he would benefit Hawthorn really well going forward as an outside winger alongside D'Ambrosio. Then Giants are on the clock. I've got them taking their academy kid Cooper Bell, key defender, very raw, a lot of upside. I think he might get bid on a bit earlier, but I'm not exactly sure where. So just got him falling to their pick here. And then with the final pick of the draft, I've got St Kilda taking Lennox Hoffman. I'm not sure if he'll get bid on in this year's draft, but I think he'll get to St Kilda either way with one of their late picks. So that does conclude the national draft. There's a few players who've missed out, such as Montgomery and Burgoyne from Port Adelaide's academy and father-son, but I think they'll go as rookies. Elwood Peckett has also fallen into the rookies. I think St Kilda will elect to pre-list him in that scenario. Collingwood, Luke Quainer and Doug Kerr, I'm not sure if they'll be taken, but if they do, I think it will be as rookies as well. And then guys like River Stevens, Benny Barrett, and some other players stretch for Sydney as well. I think they're all potential rookies as academy players and father-sons. That does it for the draft. I've been yapping for an eternity, so I'm going to leave the video there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. It is a bit easier now that we know where each club stands after all those trades and player movement, but this order will change a bit more on draft night and potentially prior to that with pick swaps, but I think we can get a pretty accurate gauge of where things stand at the moment. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts on who you want your club to take in each range. Correct me if you want. Like, I'm not an expert in any shape or form on any club or any of these draftees, but I am just trying to provide my opinion. So if you've got any differing opinions, leave them in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.